Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's video, I wanted to talk about some of the tools you can use to lessen the burden of all these sort of mundane tasks that you might have to do on an ongoing basis when you run a SaaS or pretty much just any business as a whole. There's always going to be things that come up over and over again that you're going to have to deal with. And I have, over the past 4 years of being a tech founder, found a couple ways to adapt to it so it takes up as little time as humanly possible. And I have almost no overhead in my day-to-day process so that I can focus on what actually matters when it comes to running my business. And if you don't know, my name is Anthony. I am a tech founder of a SaaS company from 4 years ago, and as well as one from right now. And I'm a senior software engineer. So I'm going to give you guys a run through of some of the coolest tools that I have found that can make your life easier as a founder. Okay, first of all, one thing that you're probably going to deal with a lot is people that are your customers or users of your site. They're going to have a lot of complaints. They're going to have a lot of bugs that they come up with. They're going to have a lot of feature requests. You need some way to consolidate and deal with all of this. And I highly recommend, if you are making a modern day SaaS company, please make a Discord for your SaaS. This is somewhere where all your users can go to talk to each other, where they can share ideas, where they can open tickets. Yep, that's right. Discord has a place where you can open tickets and actually have support teams, if you ever have support teams in the future, actually resolve those tickets and keep track of them. And Discord used to be a place where you just pretty much play video games. And that is not the case anymore. This isn't just a chat platform to play video games with your friends. It is better than Slack, in my opinion. In fact, my last SaaS company, for the 4 years that we ran with the 20 employees that we had at one point, we ran all of it through Discord. There was no Slack, nothing like that. We didn't email with each other. We didn't email with our customers. All our customers came through Discord. All of our employees work through Discord. We have private channels and stuff like that for the employees, and we still do. And Discord is by far just so ahead of the curve. The only reason why it's not adopted in more enterprise solutions yet is because it still has that gaming brand image, and a lot of older people probably aren't willing to switch from what they know, which is Slack, something that gives admins and workplaces a lot more control over it, to something like Discord, which, even though it's a lot more fleshed out feature wise and it has a lot more capability, it's easier to onboard people onto, et cetera, et cetera. Also, it's a lot cheaper than Slack is, that's for sure, for enterprises. But people just don't want to switch onto it for a number of reasons I talked about. But highly recommend. But please start a Discord for your business. It is so nice to do, and a lot of modern companies are doing it. It will help you keep track of customer support, all that good stuff. Now, the next thing that might take up a lot of your time is looking at things like metrics. For example, reoccurring monthly revenue on Stripe. You might be looking at your page views on Google Analytics, which, ever since they forced you to switch from Google Analytics 3, which was an amazing product, to Google Analytics 4, which sucks, I recommend tracking your software or your site through something else. For example, we just use Versal Analytics because our website is hosted on Versal itself, and you can go and look at my tech stack video where I talked about why I chose to do that. But anyways, all of these things are sort of in different places, and sometimes you might want to look at all your stats in one place. And for example, if your key metric for your business is actually site views, like ours was for a long time, you'll learn that because a lot of people use ad blockers that block JavaScript on modern day browsers like Chrome, tools like Google Analytics and Versal Analytics don't actually work that well. So we actually had to implement our own page tracking logic into our code base and store our page hits in our actual database. And it's sort of a hassle going to Stripe to see our MRR, going to Versal to see like maybe the distribution of countries for our traffic, and then going and making a database query to actually see what the breakdown of our traffic was. And while we didn't implement it back then, now, if I had to redo it after learning about it, I would definitely use Retool. It allows you to just make a sort of front-end dashboard for anything you could want. You can implement your Supabase/database. You can implement Stripe. You can implement a bunch of different stuff that you might be integrated with. It's not even just for doing things like understanding and seeing like details. It's not just for like visuals to like see, okay, what's our MMR, how many page hits we have. You can actually do things on this as well. So for example, if you are manually like marking users as a premium user, or maybe let's say you're just getting started out and you don't want to waste time coding this whole complex logic to upgrade a user to a premium user if they pay this or that, And maybe you don't even want to add the logic on the site to make payments. You just want to start by making payments on Stripe and invoices on Stripe and sending them to your first clients, which is the case for my new startup because we're B2B. We're not going to spend like a week coding a pricing integration when we're onboarding like maybe 1 or 2 clients a week. You can do all of that on Retool as well. You can mark people as subscribing. You can add a new user to the database. You can assign passwords and stuff like that. It allows you to pretty much make all the tooling you need around your application that's not directly related to the actual application itself without having to code a custom front end for it, which is insanely useful. And I've talked about Retool before. They went through Y Combinator, I believe, in 2017, I think, and they have an amazing startup journey on their own. I have a Reddit thread linked to it in one of my last videos on finding minimum viable products. And yeah, Retool will just save you a lot of time in the long run if you build an admin dashboard on here instead of needing to build one on your own side and stuff like that. Next, let's get into the nitty gritty of actually running a software company. So if you are building a software product yourself, you're going to have bugs, you're going to have crashes, you're going to need to know what is going on. First of all, I highly recommend using a dedicated log server. So something like if you're hosting on Versal logs are okay, but they're not great. They charge you if you go over a certain amount of logs in classic Versal overcharging fashion. I recommend using something like BetterStack. I have been using them for the past like year and a half for my esports startup, and man, have we got so much value out of the free tier. We did end up upgrading to the small team tier, which is like $80 a month, but that's just because we have an enormous amount of logs with 500K page views a month coming in. And BetterStack will allow you to like really easily just search through those logs. So anytime something goes wrong and you're like, oh my God, the site went down today. Oh, this user said this happened. You can, as long as you're like logging properly and you're sending your logs to BetterStack, you can search through these logs, see exactly what happened before, after, all that good stuff. It allows you to see pretty much everything you need, and you can just look at your logs without having to worry about like a bad platform not logging properly or having a bad UX or not being completely searchable. Highly recommend it. It will save you so much more time than what the money's worth. And while we're on the topic of that, it's also worth noting that you should look into something like Uptime Robot. If uptime is very important for your website, like the business runs through the website, then this can also save you a lot of time. Before we implemented Uptime Robot, which was 2 years ago now, there were a lot of times where the site would go down and we wouldn't know about it until a user was like, hey, the site is down. So what we did was we created an Uptime Robot thing, which pretty much just pings our site every 60 seconds. And then whenever it sees that the site is down, you can just hook it up with a Discord webhook, which is super easy. You just paste in the URL, and the Discord webhook will just at me and my co-founder being like, hey, the site is down. And we've been using that for the past 2 years, and it is an amazing indicator. Not to mention, they also, if you are on their like $10 a month plan, they also allow you to spin up like an uptime service. So like we pointed ours to status.rib.gg. Rib.gg is my esports company's name. So we pointed to status.rib.gg, and you can see like the uptime and stuff like that over the last 90 days. Like some days we were out and stuff like that, and like how many times each individual service has gone down. So it's not just for the site, but maybe it's like a specific endpoint. Maybe it's a specific node process we have running that provides analytics and stuff like that. You can see all of it over here. And it's also nice to direct your users to. So if anyone's like, oh, hey, I'm having an issue with the site, is it not working? You can direct them to this and be like, oh, I don't know. It looks like everyone else has been having an okay time with it. So I'm not 100% sure, but we'll look into it. Great value, just great value. You'll see a lot of big sites use this as well. I know there's a lot of bigger tech companies that use Uptime Robot, and I've always wondered how they did it, but this is how they do it. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is something that might not be completely relevant, but is cool nonetheless. And that is doing localization if you're doing a website. So we got to the point where we started getting enough page views from other countries that people were requesting that the site was localized. So I wanted to localize, which basically means I wanted the site to be translated in like a bunch of different languages, depending on where the user accessed the website from. So we wanted to localize it in like 10 different languages. And there's a lot of services out there, but it's not a clean and easy solution. So what I ended up doing right when ChatGPT's API came out is I wrote a giant script that I just write npm run translate, and it will go ahead and take all of our English that I have in JSON files for all the pages, and it will translate that into every single one of those 10 languages just by asking ChatGPT what the translations are. Does it get everything right all the time? No. Is it still pretty good for like a practically free solution that you don't have to integrate with some other SaaS for? Definitely. It will save you so much time. I've worked at companies where they have dedicated localization teams, and to change one sentence on a single page, you have to go through like a 3-week pipeline of the localization team looking at it from all these different languages. And sure, they're going to get like a slightly better translation. But if you're just running a small SaaS company, or you're just trying to get stuff out to your users and you want to support more than one language for whatever reason, and that's super important to you and you just need to do it fast, this is the way to do it. I'm not going to release that script that I wrote because it's sort of like proprietary. And honestly, when I wrote it at first, I probably should have created like some sort of company around it, because I realized there's probably a huge need for a whole bunch of companies to do it. And maybe that's an idea I'll keep in my back pocket, but I'm sure there's probably something out there to do it. And honestly, it took me like a couple hours to write that script and I did it from scratch. I'm sure if you ask ChatGPT to help you with it, you'll probably get you to do it a lot easier. And also I used ILN or IL8N, which I believe is just like the standard localization like format and stuff like that. I use their components to make it all compatible within Next.js. And that's super technical, but I recommend like maybe looking into how AI could help you with your localizations instead of thinking about, oh my God, if I want things localized, I either have to pay hundreds of dollars a month on a software, or I have to hire like a localization team or something like that. So those are some things, some of the mundane things I've had to deal with running a SaaS for the past 4 years, and I'm sure I'll have to deal with in the future as well. And I hope if you guys ever have to deal with those, that this video helped, and now you know how to deal with them a lot easier so they don't take up your time and you can focus on what matters. And if you have any other ideas on what I should talk about on this channel, please leave them in the comments. I have done a whole bunch of stuff, but I want to know what you guys want to hear about, because I could just talk about anything. And yeah, if you enjoyed this, make sure you subscribe, leave a comment. It helps so much with the YouTube algorithm, and I'll see you guys in the next video.